So the brand new M4 Mac Mini has quickly become one of the most talked about machines of probably 2024. And when you take into consideration that $599 price tag for the base model and $499 if you're a student, and you compare that to the specs you get, what it's capable of, and just the sheer performance of this machine, it's really a no-brainer as to why it's become so popular. And since I'm setting my one up, because I'm going to be doing various tests and reviews on this channel, I figured why not take you along the steps of how to set up your own Mac, because there's going to be a lot of you out there that are setting up a Mac for the very first time, and some of the things in this video could be quite helpful. I'm going to go through the equipment you might need, how to set it up, and just to get you into the Mac operating system as a start. Now, if it's your first time here, do consider subscribing down below for more content like this and just general all tech content. Like the video if you liked it and you found it helpful. Share it with your friends and family who are going to need some help setting up their brand new Macs. With holiday season coming around the corner, this is probably going to be a very sought after gift of many people. So without further ado, let's go check it out. So before we even go plug in the Mac Mini in, something to take into consideration is in the actual Mac Mini box, the only thing you're going to be getting is the Mac Mini and the power cable that plugs into the back. Everything else that you're going to need to connect to the actual MacBook, you will have to purchase separately. So some things you may need are a mouse, whether it be a wireless mouse or a wired mouse. This is the Logitech MX3S, and it's probably one of the best mice I've actually experienced out there for content creators. Of course, everyone likes different things. Some people like the Apple mouse. I'm not really a fan of that. And then a keyboard you're going to need. This is the Satechi SM1 mechanical slimline keyboard, which is something I've been using recently and it's quite new. And then, like I said, you can use the Apple keyboard as well if you want. You're going to need a Thunderbolt 4 cable or a HDMI cable to connect a display to your actual Mac Mini. And of course, you're going to need some sort of display. I've got here they're actual portable displays by UPerfect, 22-inch ones. But I've been using them as my main displays on this desktop. And I'm going to do a desk setup video and you'll get more details on that later on. But that's the only things you need. Thunderbolt cable, HDMI cable, depending on what you're going to use for your monitor, a mouse that you're going to use, whether it be wired or wireless, and a keyboard, whether it be wired or wireless. Now you can go as expensive as you want, you can go as cheap as you want, however it fits your budget, and some sort of monitor. So on the front of your Mac Mini, you do have two USB-C ports. They're very good for plugging in things right at the front, so you don't have to fiddle around the back. They're capable of 10 gigabits per second, but what I've found is they're quite useful for plugging in peripherals like a mouse or a keyboard if you need to, or even just an SSD to plug in to transfer some data files. Now, obviously around the back, you have your three Thunderbolt 4 ports, which are capable of 40 gigabits per second. So if you want them high transfer speeds, if your SSD or NVMe is capable of it, you really want to be connecting it into one of these. This is capable of connecting up to 3 monitors, so I think you can use 2 Thunderbolts and the HDMI, or for the time being I'm only using 2 monitors, but just so you know, you can use either HDMI or the Thunderbolt port depending on what your monitor supports. And then if you're not going to be using a Wi-Fi, if you're going to be using Ethernet to plug in for internet, you can plug it into the Ethernet port. It's a gigabyte port, and you can go up to 10 gigabytes when you customize the machine, but this is the base model and we haven't chosen that, so 1 gigabit, and of course the power port. Other than that, you do have the power button at the bottom, which we will use, of course, to turn the machine on, and a 3.5mm headphone jack on the front with a small LED indicator. So let's plug it in and boot it up. So now we are going to press the power button on the back, and you'll hear that Mac sound. Now it should start booting up. I think both the monitors should come on because they are both plugged in. So they are both coming in. Yes. Okay. Now would be a good time to connect if you've got a wired mouse, connect your wired mouse to the actual Mac Mini, or if you've got a wired keyboard, connect your wired keyboard to the Mac Mini. Now on the screen it is showing for the mouse and the keyboard. So if you have got Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, turn the Bluetooth on now. So I turned mine on, and on the keyboard as well, turn it on. From what I've experienced, after maybe a minute or two, it does find the keyboard and mouse automatically if it's in pairing mode. So bear that in mind. If it doesn't find it automatically, you may need to connect it with a wire anyway. Right, select a country or region. I'm just going to select UK. And then, of course, that's your first setup process of selecting the language and your keyboard and dictation language as well, and what country where you are based. Continue. Now you've got access to accessibility functions. So if this is something you take advantage of, then this is where you're going to select them. So Vision, for example, is for the voiceover. So you can select voiceover and then it will talk through different menu things on the screen. If you want the motor accessibility one, you can have an on-screen keyboard so you don't have to type on the actual physical keyboard. And then hearing one, of course, is you can have closed captions on the screen when watching a movie, TV shows, etc. And the last one, cognitive. So this is where you can choose between light mode, dark mode, auto. I generally do like dark mode, but for the sake of this video, I think it's going to be better visually if I select light mode. So after the cognitive one is done, then we can continue, and you're going to have to select your Wi-Fi network. So obviously this is going to be different for all of us. I'm going to select my one and put my password in, and then we'll carry on with the setup. So once you put your password in, press the connect button. It's going to start connecting to your Wi-Fi network. Then the next stage will be software update. So you can update later, which I'll probably do now, update later, just to go through the setup, data and privacy. Now, if you're moving from a Windows PC or a Mac, it's going to be one of the two, I guess, you can use the migration assistant. So from a Mac, you can use the Time Machine backup or a startup disk, and you can transfer all your data from your MacBook onto your Mac Mini. Same goes for Windows PC. You are going to need a cable of some sorts, whether it be ideally a higher data transfer speed cable, which you can plug into the Thunderbolt port in the back, and then you can connect the two and transfer it over. There are ways of doing it without a cable, but the fastest way is always with a high data speed cable. So I'm not currently going to do this now, just for the sake of the setup, if it's going to take too long. So I'm going to click not now. Then you can sign in with your Apple account, which you're going to have to do, whether it's to take advantage of downloading apps on the App Store. Of course, Apple Intelligence, you're going to need to have an Apple account of some sorts. And generally, you are going to need to have an Apple account just to have full functionality of your Mac. So I'm not going to put mine in now for the sake of the video again, but that's something, if you haven't already made one, you can press create new Apple account and go through the setup of making your own Apple account. And then we're going to skip that for me. Terms and conditions, of course, you're free to disagree, but then you can return your Mac Mini to the store because that's as far as you get in. We agree to all the terms and conditions. Now setting up a computer account. So you're going to set up a full name. So I'm going to put my one in there. I'll put Elmer, account name, which do Elmer again. Password, you do need to set some sort of password, otherwise it won't let you continue. So pick a password, fill it in, and then redo the password on this section, and then click continue. I'm just going to put a password in now as well. Once you've done the password, you can leave a hint as an option. So if you do forget your password, you've got some sort of help as to what your password may be. Then we're going to continue. It's going to start creating your account. And like I said, the times may be different for everyone. It generally takes a minute or two. So don't worry if it have to wait a little bit. So now you've got enable location services. So if you do want to enable them, this is where you click it. Of course, all these settings can be changed later on if you don't want to do it now or if you change your mind. So I usually don't share my analytics with Apple. Not a big deal, but it's just something I click. And then screen time is something that I don't need to take advantage of, where you can set up restrictions and whatnot, but that's not something that I need to do. Set up later. And that was the last section. Now it should welcome us into Mac. Continue. Keyboard setup assistant. So this is now setting up the keyboard. Press the key immediately to the right of the shift key on the left side of the keyboard. And then press the keyboard immediately to the left of the shift key. And that's just set up what kind of keyboard you've got, I guess. Done. So now we are in the Mac operating system. A few things I'm going to point out. Obviously, if you're coming from Windows, this is going to be very different. So as opposed to having the start button on the bottom Windows, you've got your stuff on the top, your Finder, File, Edit. Settings is usually down here on the dock. So you've got system settings, which you can go through and edit stuff out. change wallpapers, go through the displays, set up different resolutions, update your actual operating system as well. And you've got your app store down here. But in order for the App Store to work and you to be able to download any apps on your Mac, you're going to need to log into the Apple account ID. So I would suggest doing that first, and then you've got the control center up here. So you've got different sorts of widgets, and then you've got your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, AirDrop, display, sound, and everything basically there. So that was essentially it. You should be into the Mac operating system now, and I did hope the video helped you. I did try to make sure it wasn't too long, but long enough so you can find out the basics of getting into the actual system. Now, if there is anything you want to know that I haven't covered in this video, do ask me down in the comments box below. I will try to answer any questions I get, because I understand there is a lot of questions when it comes to macOS, especially if it's your first time moving over. So if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more Mac content. I will be doing a lot more tests in terms of gaming and seeing the performance of this thing, how it compares to my M1 Max MacBook Pro, and share it with your friends and family who you think are going to need some help setting this up, or save it for yourself if you do end up getting a Mac Mini for the holidays or Black Friday. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.